Welcome to our third session. This is a very small group. Again, I received some other RSVPs, so I imagine some other fellows will be joining us soon. Everyone here knows me, but I'm Dr. Megan Healy-Clancy for people who may be watching this on recording. I'm the African Studies Program Coordinator at Bridgewater State and have been involved in various capacities with the Mandela Washington Fellows Program.
For which we are very grateful.
Yes, and I've been delighted to participate. So Mike, do you want to begin with some comments about this session, or I don't know how you guys want to proceed, but we'll be discussing.
I was told that I'm being the one of the last words,
okay.
So I'll leave that up to Wing perhaps to start us off.
I think Wendy will lead the rest of this. Yeah.
Wing Kai, you are muted.
Okay, I'm muted. Sorry, I'm trying to, sorry folks, thank you Megan, dear colleagues, and I especially Kumano, calling in from South Africa, and Margaret, are you in Belgium right now?
I got back like about a month ago. Like the traveling was a real hassle at the airports.
Oh, so you're back in Uganda, okay.
Yeah.
So some of you may not know that Margaret has been studying in Belgium for her master's degree over the last 2 years or the whole year, last year. So
sorry to correct you, Dr. To. Actually, it was my PhD.
Oh yeah, PhD. I mean, yeah. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. Yeah, over the past year, but I don't know if you're aware of what's happening with PhD students being recalled from the field, and because of the whole COVID situations and supervisors not being able to fly in. There've just been a few hiccups and a few challenges, but I'm thankfully at home. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So we wish you well in your PhD program. We have tried. We are organizing our last session of the Mandela Washington Fellowship Alumni Professional Development Program today, and focusing on the future, and especially focusing on public management and also media communication. And it's my honor again to formally introduce Dr. Wendy Haynes, who basically needs no introduction, but I would still do the introduction. Dr. Haynes has been a faculty member started in Bridgewater State University back in 2004 as a faculty member, originally as a faculty member in the political science department, and subsequently became the director of the Master of Public Administration program for a number of years. And beginning from about 2014, she transitioned herself from a faculty member to a part-time administrator, and eventually a full-time administrator, serving in both graduate studies and also in global engagement, and also external affairs. I should say external engagement divisions. And currently she's the Associate Dean for Graduate Studies. Dr. Haynes had an extensive background in public management, especially working for the government. And I know that the fellows probably also heard about her experience working for the MBTA in the past. So we have her as the first speaker. And then we have Dr. Jabbar Al-Obaidi, who will be the second speaker. And as you know, he's in the Communication Studies Department and also the Director of Global Programs. And Dr. Al-Obaidi has been teaching at Bridgewater State University since 1998. And he has been a very strong supporter of all the international programs over his career at Bridgewater. And now he's the the faculty leader for global engagement. Last but not least, Professor Jodie Kluver will be engaging in a dialogue with Dr. Wendy Haynes about the role of conflict management and also especially the Certified Public Management Program. Professor Kluver has extensive experience in nonprofit management and is currently the head of our Certified Public Managers Program at Bridgewater State University. So I'll turn to Dr. Haynes to start off today's program.
Well, I also want to, as you probably heard, to let you know that Dr. Mike Kryzanek will be having almost the last word, talking with us, doing a review of, or sort of a reprise of these 3 sessions that we've had, and talking about the topics in the context of Nelson Mandela and servant leadership. So I'm really looking forward to that too. And then we'll close it out with some words from Wing Kai, Dr. To, pardon me, about possible next steps. And Jodie will get into that a bit too. But before I begin, and I'm just intending this to be more of a conversation than a super formal presentation, I'd like to invite the fellows that are here to introduce themselves, their country of origin, and also their latest projects or title or undertaking that's occupying them now. So, Mike, would you like to do the honors of calling on folks?
First person I saw there was Kumalo, so I'll ask Kumalo, who's one of our first alumni back in, 2016, I think it was, if I'm not correct.
Yes.
If you would do us the honor of telling us a little bit about himself and where he's going right now, that'd be helpful. Kumalo?
Well, good afternoon, good evening from my side. I'm Thanza Kumalo from Pretoria in South Africa. I work for the National Department of Trade, Industry and Competition in one of the agencies that is responsible for company and intellectual property registration. At the time of my fellowship at BSU, I was still with the CIPC. I'm still there. But now I'm in the office of the commissioner, who's like the director general. I'm now responsible for strategy planning and reporting. That's basically it. That's what I do. I work from home most of the time, almost every, because of this pandemic. I'm literally almost every time at home. Thank you.
Thank you, Kumalo. We'll head over to Margaret, who's in Uganda. And Margaret, if you tell us a little bit about where you are right now and how you're doing and what projects you may be involved in. So it's good to see you again. Good to see you.
Thank you so much. I'm at home in my bedroom, so don't mind the background. All right. So my full name is Margaret Wagana. I'm a magistrate, grade 1, working in the judiciary of the government of Uganda. I'm currently on study leave. I've been on study leave since I joined the Mandela Washington Fellowship 2019 event like last year. What I'm working on currently is like my PhD, although there are certain challenges internationally faced by students. My PhD is on refugee mobilities in Uganda and human rights. Basically, refugees are one of the most vulnerable populations, and even with the onset of COVID, they've heavily been impacted. So the older I get, the more I wish to specialize specifically in refugee welfare, refugee protection, and issues regarding migration. That's why I chose that as a topic. It's very sensitive to me, and I have personal experiences in that. So I am on study leave. And also another project I'm working on with the Uganda 2019 cohort has to do with also refugee welfare. Again, we have formed a partnership with one of the cohorts, but she didn't come. She went to a different university. She wasn't with me in Bridgewater State. It's for differently abled people. So in this part, the partnership is being funded by the State Department. Right now, we are applying for funding. We had a meeting, is it last week? So what this project is doing is dealing with welfare of refugees and planting trees in refugee settlements. So I've volunteered, like my part in the project, I've volunteered myself for the fieldwork activities. So that's what I'm doing currently.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Margaret. Megan, before we get to Biru here, I thought I saw Patience, Dr. Patience from Ghana trying to get in. I just, you know.
I just sent her, and also Kanye Sile is also struggling to get. I sent them the link a couple times,
Okay.
so they should be able to get in.
I sent passcode, yes, well.
Yeah, I sent the passcode, and then I just sent the whole invitation again. So hopefully they'll be able to join us in a moment. But yeah, a couple people trying to get in, but it looks like Biru was able to join us.
Yep,
so that's great.
Biru is here, and Biru, I know I see all your beautiful pictures from England where you were there, and please tell us a little bit about what you're doing, and I believe you're back in Ethiopia now, but please let us know how things are going. Hopefully he'll come back on.
Yeah. Baru, we're not able to hear you.
Could be a connection issue again.
Yeah. I saw a sign of life.
Well, Wendy, it's up to you. I don't know if you want to move on, and then when they come in, we can have them introduce themselves as you move forward, I guess.
Yeah, let's do it like that. What I wanted to do was to talk with you a little bit about, at least from the United States perspective, some of the wicked problems, grand challenges that we're seeing here. And the way that I want to start that is to talk with you a little bit about the National Academy for Public Administration. This is an institution, nonpartisan, independent institution that was chartered by Congress in 1967 to be an independent voice on good governance, democracy, the health of the nation, and one of and I happen to have been fortunate enough to be elected to serve as one of those 850 fellows across the United States who are weighing in on issues of government and public administration. And of course, the election provided a tremendous opportunity for NAPA, National Academy for Public Administration, to weigh in with the incoming president. In fact, NAPA began a year ago to be anticipating, thinking about how do we want to advise the new administration, whether it's the second term for President Trump or Biden and his crew. So they have been spending the last year taking a look at that, trying to anticipate what we need to be thinking about. And of course, they started that work pre-COVID. And so needless to say, the pandemic had a tremendous influence on their thinking and the kinds of things that they wanted to alert the new administration to. So they came up with 12 grand challenges, and some of them, by the way, if you want to access the detail on that, they're at napawash.org. I'll put that in the chat room later. But they came up with some things that, of course, we would expect, right? Things that have to do with fiscal stability of the country, the natural resource preservation, and those sorts of things. But they also came up, I was delighted to see, with two items that I think really relate to this group and to our fellows and our work with the continent. And those are, and I'm going to pull those up so I don't foul this up. One of them was building resilient communities. And needless to say, the pandemic certainly underscored the need for us to be resilient, respond to catastrophes and challenges of many types. But one of the things that they identified was the need to restore trust and collaboration among levels of government. And as you all probably recall, in the United States, we have a federalist, or we have separation between the national government and the subnational governments, which for the most part are state and local governments. And those, it's in times of stress, such as a pandemic or a natural disaster, it's especially important that those levels of government, that is the intergovernmental relations, is strong, collaborative, and resilient. And we have found, particularly in the last 4 years, but I think even preceding that, that those levels of government had a really tough time responding well to disasters and to challenges. So we've got a lot of work to do. And one of the things that they're recommending as part of the strategic decision-making is to develop a comprehensive resilience strategy, as well as to establish a National Resilience Director and National Resilience Office, and and I'm going to read this part to you because I think it's really crucial, to increase critical capacity across the nation, built on the ideas that resources are central, education is a capacity multiplier, and infrastructure is a foundation upon which resilience rests. So that, in the longer piece on this, they certainly acknowledge our role, the United States' role in the world, but they have another one of the 12 challenges is the United States in an interconnected world, advance national interest in a changing global context. And so I was reading through this, and what they're talking about as a major challenge is our connectedness in the world. And part of that is a function of improvements in technology and our ability, such as we're doing today, to connect with others across the world. But the other piece of it is this notion that, and Maggie alluded to this a few moments ago, part of this is that the world has the largest population flows and total number of refugees since the 1940s. And so we are all affected, impacted upon by what others do, by what's happening in other countries. And the pandemic, by definition, is a global occurrence and something that we need to deal with. They're especially mindful of the potential issues and aggressiveness of Russia and China in other countries, and the need for us to be aware of what's going on and to be engaged in it. And so I was impressed. Sometimes what happens at the national level is that we become very insular and don't acknowledge the importance of our partnerships and our work with others. So I wanted to draw some of those challenges to your attention and make you aware of that resource. It's a tremendous think tank and something I hope that the new administration listens to a bunch. So that deals to some extent with some of our really grand challenges and also the notion of strategic decision-making and action. But then I was thinking about the other piece of what we were talking about today, which had to do with conflict resolution. And I was thinking in a few minutes, what could I say about that? And I was struck. I was just in the Council of Government, or the Council of Graduate Schools conference, and the keynote speaker in the morning was a guy by the name of Tom Tate, who's the former mayor of Anaheim, California. And he very humbly and yet unabashedly decided some years ago when he was mayor of Anaheim that he would figure out how to create a culture of kindness. Kindness being an act, doing something for someone with no expectation of return. And so he infused, he thought a lot about it. And part of the reason that he was so intrigued by this notion of kindness was that a young girl, Natasha, how do I pronounce her name? I won't even try and pronounce her last name. It's actually it's Jayevsky, was killed in a car accident. And her father, when going through her things, she was just 6 years old, when going through her things, found these beautiful pieces of art and rainbows with messages about kindness on them. And so he decided he wanted to honor her by showing these pieces of work to the Anaheim community. And the then mayor heard of that and thought, boy, what a thought. With all the difficulties we're having, maybe what we need to stop doing is trying to treat the symptoms of these problems and in fact try to heal the city from within. And so he started a campaign to create a culture of kindness, and he tapped the local school district to challenge the children in these schools to commit a million acts of kindness. And he found in the process that his community began to heal. And it was the influence of these small little acts of kindness that made a huge difference. And they noticed as well a reduction in conflict among neighborhoods, which has been really rough, and more of a sense of community. So naive as it may sound, I suggest that to all of us to consider how a culture of kindness might help us heal from this pandemic experience and from many of the other challenges that we face, and might help us from a global perspective have a sense of community and the sense that we are indeed all in this together. So those are my thoughts on grand challenges. I hope you find that napawash.org resource helpful to you. And I now want to, I invite you, by the way, all of you, to put questions in the chat room. I think our group is manageable enough that you're also welcome to ask your own questions. But before we get to questions, I wanted to move on to Jabbar and ask you, Jabbar, what, from your perspective, and especially from the global communications perspective, what do you see as some of the grand challenges that we're facing?
Thank you. Let me share my, I hope. It was there when I didn't need it. It's not here when I need it. Okay. What happens here?
I noticed too, while you're working on that, Jabbar, that we've had several other people join us. Some very familiar names and faces. Can't see all the faces, but we know who you are. Mike, would you like to call on a couple of the new folks just to introduce themselves? We don't want to have us just staring at Jabbar, right?
Yeah, please.
You're muted, Mike. Mike, you're muted at the moment.
Please unmute yourself, Mike.
Please unmute yourself, Mike.
That would be helpful, right?
Yeah, very helpful. Thank you.
As Wendy, as I was starting to say, we have some new entrants here to our group, and now we're back to Jabbar, so we'll have to do it a little bit later. How's that?
All right, so get ready, folks.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Haynes, for that, and thank you for our leadership to get us with our wonderful alumni from Africa. My name is Jabbar Al-Obaidi. I'm the academic director of global programs. Just for my colleagues that they don't know me, because we usually don't do this introduction for ourselves because we are a family. But it's really what interests me in this conversation come from I'm not going to say any officials. Call me Jabbar, please, so we make it easy. So my friend Wendy would always, she's thoughtful in terms of getting the conversation going. And when she mentioned in our conversation the word wicked, I thought this is like, you know, you make us like to smile. But no, it is really is a very deep rooted term, not just in the linguistic sense, but in cultural and social sense. And it deals with a very deep problem, socially and culturally and politically. And some of them, it is wicked because it's almost impossible to resolve. That's really what it is. So when you think about it, and it is a challenge that you want to come up with a solution to it, but you cannot. So there you have two ways, either to continue communicating with the circumstances and the conditions and how you're gonna maneuver around it, or you give up. Unfortunately, 2/3 of us in this global, we somehow choose the easiest exit, which is to give up. And when you give up, then you really cannot come with a solution that, let's say, challenge us to solve these 12 grand challenges that Dr. Haynes talk about, which is energy, environment, food, shelter, disaster, all the things that you see on the screen. And when I thought about it, as these are wicked problems, but fortunately, some, you know, especially the advanced countries, because they have the wealth, and also they have the mechanism work around it, to solve the problem. Not necessarily the other 2/3 part of the world that they are not willing, but they don't have the means, probably, even the political means. They don't have the correct system, to deal with it. But then when I went back and said, okay, let's check what the United Nations actually did also. And you see, they have 17 goals there, which is somehow they are wicked too, but they didn't mention as NAP did, wicked, because I think wicked now to me is a keyword that I recognize this is a very difficult problem, near impossible to solve, but we got to solve it collectively. So we see these 17 goals, which fortunately Bridgewater State University has been working on this, because we have a project with the sustainability program, and we have a lot of work done around it, and it becomes part of our education, which is really important. So we communicate with these 12 wicked problems, and also with 17 goals of the sustainability in terms of the United Nations. So we are not, thinking just, we imagine the word that with the 12 wicked problem or the 17. They are actually well connected in that sense. And that's why I think we need to understand, how to communicate. As I said, either you communicate and you be persistent and you ready yourself to the challenges, or not. Because one of the things is, as a communication, and all of you, I know you know that, is this process of transferring information, disseminating information. We can't disseminate information from now until probably another, 3-4 centuries. But if we cannot really come to a sense with what we are transforming and transferring information, you can be as ambitious as you can. You have a lot of great ideas, but that is not enough in our business in this world. You need to make sure that you understand your society, your local community. You understand also the politics of things, and also the whole organization in terms of business, because you will hit a problem, then you need to communicate with. I always remember Menachem Begin when he introduced the really wicked problem, which is the peace between the state of Israel and Egypt. He started with 10 things. And he said, I want to accomplish 3 things. And the 3 things is actually almost oriented toward the peace. That's why we have, for example, the Camp David occurred. So you can imagine a lot of things that are ideas, if you cannot communicate them well in your organization, to your community, to your significant others, to whoever you are communicating with, then that's not enough. Then if you want to communicate it, that you need to understand there is the effectiveness of the messages should be A, practical, B, factual, concise, and persuasive. That's really important, that when you mobilize your base, you mobilize your allies, and then you can work together to clarify expectation and responsibilities, because this is the 12 wicked problems or challenges or grand challenges, and also with the 17 goals of sustainability in the United Nations. We need to make sure that who's responsible to do what and when and how. And also with this, it's not gonna use your military power, but you have to use your thoughtfulness as a power. That's the soft power that you need to use it, because that really, when you create a sense of normality, and then also you build the trust, as Wendy mentioned this, because we don't want to break, between ourselves as communicator and the receivers, whether that be globally or locally or regionally or nationally or what have you. We need to know any message will create certain behavior. And so we got to minimize, you know, anything that will create a problem and bring the teams together, the community together, because, you know, caring, as you say in the commercial, you hear it a lot, you know, caring is, sharing is caring. So we need to share these ideas with our audience, with our local people. So it becomes really everyone's responsibility. You are in a small office working with 2-3 people. You know, it happens that you have some power there. That's the structure. Now, how can you utilize the structure to benefit all of them so they can be creative and also they can shine and contribute to solve that problem or that crisis? And remember, crisis in our work, you know, I have a crisis probably in my class if I'm a teacher. I have a crisis in my office if, you know, certain of some work or business. These are not necessarily always bad things. They are actually an invitation for creativity and also to really an invitation to come together if you create the right environment. Now, for us in media, globally speaking, we have typical challenges. This is like everyday challenges. I'm not going to read all of them, but in the information in general revolution, you see a lot of information dissemination, and especially at least the last 10 years, it's been documented that 82 to 85% of the information that been created in the economic side, in the political side, in the culture side, in the industry, in media industry side, entertainment side, comes from the United States. So in a way, this information revolution benefited and weakened media system in the world, the ecosystem, a global ecosystem, media global system, being either benefited very well if they use it wisely, or actually it make the system poorer. And that will take us to the illiberal regimes, you know, that they are actively, you know, jumping and seized the opportunity to control their environment in terms of, and even in the most advanced country like United States, which, as I said, produce a lot of information and disseminate a lot of information, but it kind of become more than typical problem because we started to receive or disseminate disinformation and of course fuel the polarization and the divisiveness, exploit democratic, you know, any system, and Dr. Kryzanek knows more about this. You know, any democracy, any practice of democratization, it has some vulnerabilities, you know, some soft area where others can't jump on it. So they kind of exploit that. And of course, then they have the surveillance in general, I mean, our space, even in media. Why? Because they want to make sure that the controlling end is in the hand of those who can manipulate the message and of course disseminate the message. It's a chilling effect because it's really deny us from getting the right information. And let's move to the other one. Where this typical, but we still as community everywhere in Africa, in Asia, in the Middle East, in every single country, we need to keep this in mind, the right to tell, the right to share. So you have on the left side, you have really the red 4 points: accountability, transparency, participation, serves as a watchdog for the public interest. Unfortunately, that becomes a real challenge for global media. I would dare to say even local media. And of course, the so-called mainstream media, whether in the United States or in European countries. And then you come to the middle column, and you see inclusion in democratic process, accurate and credible news information. You know, you need to make sure that accountability cannot really be as such without that inclusive approach. And then if you go to the last, which is I think is very important to understand that we need as global media, which really a big challenge, holds a powerful accountable, you know, provides fundamental building block for equitable development, nurtures the long-term health and freedom of the media sector. These are on the left, the four one, they are really in control because it's very overcasted and very clouded, unfortunately. And then when we come to the...
Excuse me, Jabbar, let's wrap it up in about a couple minutes.
Yes, sure.
Okay, thank you.
Then when we go to wicked problems and grand challenges, you see these are the really the connectivity between, you have government, you have local media, you have civil society, which I hope we can always nurture it and develop it, and then you have global media, and then you have the target. The audience target, I see, is really that's going like turban around these five elements. And I'll wrap it there. So in the global media, wicked challenges we have, A, and I will end with this. We have group A, group B. So I'm going to end with group A. Fragmented media environment, profound demographic shifts, of course, economic inequality, centralized power, polarization and disinformation, climate changes in terms of the eco-global system, artificial intelligence now entered without really preparation, the foundation for that. You know, so people say, I don't know who control who, and other technological advances, which is really coming to crush us. And then I will leave this for you to see in terms of one thing that to my friends in Africa, please break the connection between what we call a journalism and activism. There is no way. You have to be you need, if you are a journalist, stay journalist. And if you want to write something, write it. But you cannot have two in one hand, in your mind. I'm a journalist and I'm activist. That will confuse, I think, the idea and the message, and you create actually more conflicts and more problem. I mean, there are other people, they can be activists because they are not equipped to be journalists or in the profession of journalism, and I will end up with that.
Thank you very much, Jabbar. That was really a lot of information that you provided. How well, and I guess I'll look to Wing Kai or Megan, how can we get these the slides to the fellows?
They are actually recording, so they're not.
Yeah, so I'm recording the whole presentation.
Okay,
Jabbar, if you wanna send me your slides
Sure.
separately after this, I'll be happy to send
Sure.
those around to the fellows also.
Sure.
All right.
that would be wonderful.
Sure, of
Thank you
course.
very much.
Of course.
Thank you. Before we go on to Jodie to talk with us about wicked problems, challenges facing nonprofits, and to some extent local government as well, I would like to invite Mike to invite some of our newer joiners to introduce themselves.
Okay, thank you, Wendy. I'll just go through here from what I see on the screen, and that would be Lorenta, who I believe is in England. Good to see you and hear from you, Lorenta. Biru, who was in England and I believe is back in Ethiopia now. Dr. Patience from Ghana. Minda from Cameroon. Daniel from Cameroon. Costa from Kenya. Adenyi Jimmy, as we used to call him and still call him now, from Nigeria, and Kanasile from Eswatini. So welcome to you all. I don't know, Wendy, what time constraints are, but perhaps when they get into the conversation with you, they might be able to tell you a little bit more about themselves. How's that?
Great. After Jodie speaks, I think I'm going to invite people to ask questions and talk about themselves a bit more before we move on to you, Mike. So let me, if I may, introduce Professor Jodie. We knew her as Jodie Kluver, now also Koretsky. And we're looking forward to hearing from you, Jodie, especially when you unmute yourself.
I'm unmuted. Hello.
Great. Perfect. Thank you.
And I will try to screen share here. Let's see. It's this one right here. And go back up to the beginning. Slideshow. Beginning. Okay. Can you hear me? Okay. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So thank you for introduction and your questions. The wicked challenges for nonprofits. If you boil it down, it's the fundamental need for funding and the additional sub-issue of dependency. And I'll talk about both of those in this little piece. I've been studying the resilience and adaptability of nonprofits over the past 12 years. This has been my research area, actually. And both as an academic, but also as a practitioner. I was also a director of nonprofit funding and also an executive director currently. And so I'm a participant observer during these different phases of time. I was a part as a funding person during the last recession. So when considering the nature of the nonprofits and its relation to the environment, there are a couple of theories that come to mind. A resource dependency theory is one, and interdependency theory is the other, which I'm so excited about because both of you and Wendy and Jabbar touched on it, which is, I was like, yay, I'm so excited. So anyways, resource dependency theory is nonprofit organizations are dependent on other sectors for their survival. The power relationship, therefore, is skewed to the other sectors. Nonprofits are resource dependent on those sectors, and they try to reduce that uncertainty, and they try to restructure their dependencies. Nonprofits in a resource dependence theory module is trying to create equilibrium or stasis in that power relationship. The degree of dependence is determined by the importance of concentration of those resources provided, meaning the degree of your dependency is on if you only have a few resources that you're getting your money from versus having a diversification of that. The important thing to remember in looking at dependency theory is that those organizations that fund the nonprofit organizations are also not immune to the external environment. So whatever is happening in that larger external environment is happening to them too. So there's a deficiency in looking at the dependency theory. You also need to think about it in terms of interdependency theory. And so if you consider in your mind a Venn diagram of all four sectors, public, nonprofit, private, and the informal, and they're all encircling each one another. They're dependent. We need them dependent upon one another for a robust society. And when you're doing that, in this interdependency theory, their power relationships within this theory are more shared than with their partner, and your partner is more valued. Therefore, recognizing the value and importance of the nonprofit sector its health, its resiliency, its ability to respond to is very vital. If a partner organization is in trouble, that trouble ripples throughout the entire pool of the sectors. Nonprofit leaders need to be able to both belly button gaze and look out the window, meaning you need to be able to look into their own environment of that nonprofit, but also look out across and scan the other environments as well. And it's an iterative process because it goes back and forth rapidly, especially in a turbulent environment. So responding to those ripples in the pool, how do we do that? A couple of ways. You can look at the learning organization theory, which is that in that particular type of environment, the participants are very awake. There's a willingness to change, and that's very important, that willingness to change. And we'll come back to that in a little bit. The adaptive capacity building theory looks at learn, respond, innovate, motivate for delivering their mission. It's based on adaptation and diversification. The idea is to generate more independence, not dependence. And it impacts those power relationships. The key words here is resilience and being adaptive. And adaptive in the sense of being very nimble and also very, very flexible. But your level of dependency may also determine your fate. A strong consideration when belly button gazing and looking out the window, you need to diagnose your level of dependency. All of these readings of the environment, especially in turbulent times, be it a pandemic, a recession, depression, war, or natural disaster, is constantly changing. As a leader, you must constantly be reading that environment and communicating to those within that organization. And it's Jabbar, communicating. Yes, communicating to those within the organization and those who support and receive the assistance. Your strategic plan that you create in this type of environment is not static. In fact, it's month to month, along with your budget goals as you move through these rough waters. And I have been working with an organization during the pandemic, and every time I meet with the board, I'm like, okay, change of plans. We're going this way now. Because I'm reading the environment, it's that, it moves that much. So it takes adaptive leadership to do this work. In addition, so you need the practice of mobilizing people through challenges to thrive. It's a change that enables the capacity to thrive. Successful adaptive changes build on the past rather than just jettisoning it. You build upon it. Organizational adaptation occurs through experimentation. Experimentation requires the ability to fail and a culture that allows for that to happen. So you've got to be able to create a culture around this organization as well. Adaptation relies on diversity. A new adaptation significantly displaces, re-regulates, and rearranges some old DNA, which means you are really disrupting that organization inside out. And we'll talk about how that will change some things later on, but it takes time and it takes patience, which a lot of us don't have, but it also takes transparency and it also takes very clear communication. As the organization adapts, the ripples in that pool from wherever it's coming from, if it's coming from the public or the private sector or the informal sector, it becomes stronger. And as it becomes stronger, people will feel very uncomfortable at that point. So the leader has to be ready for that. They need to be able to embrace that the people around them are going to be very disrupted. One of the things that the leader needs to determine is it technical or adaptive changes? Because they're going to be, both of these are going to be coming in at the same time. So as a leader, you will want to decide the moving parts within the turbulence. Is it technical or adaptive changes, as they will be changing at different rates and changed with different tools. So I always think of this as a machine, almost like an old-fashioned machine with like dials that are on it, and everything's blinking. And which dial do I turn first? What needs to be, addressed first, and to how far? And I'm doing them at the same exact time. This is where your strategic plan becomes very fluid, and it's on the spot. And this piece here kind of gives you a little bit of the difference between what is technical and adaptive, and how you might go about it as well. So embracing the change and the unknown is what you're trying to help. So you're going through this technical and adaptive changes at the same time. And you, the leader, have to manage yourself within that environment. And you're also trying to help others tolerate that as well. This takes time, sustained energy, lots of transparency, and effective communication. Because the stress will at some point become so much and too much to bear for some of those individuals that are working with you, that they might begin to either work, shirk, or sabotage. You will also see illness rates rise, and you might also see infighting happening. Part of that is because they're confused. There's conflict, frustration, panic, disorientation, fear, loss. So you as a leader will need to really step in to that space, and it's going to be uncomfortable for you, but you need to be able to step in and help create some sense of equilibrium and coaxing as you move through those changes.
Jodie.
Yes.
I was hoping, we've been going about 10 minutes now.
Okay, I'm going right into it right now.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah, so this is the main process, which we talked about already, about observing the events, interpreting your observing, and designing your interventions based on this. And it's an art and a practice.
Oh, right here.
So how do we make this happen here at the university? We have mentoring and resources. BSU is offering a Massachusetts Certified Public Manager program through the state of Massachusetts, and it's open to all students and alumni of BSU. And it also includes all of you, the alumni of the YALI program. The program is a leadership development program, and it's the only national accredited program in the state of Massachusetts. And the participants, when you complete this program, you earn this distinction of a CPM, a nationally CPM. There are 325 hours of instruction. It's 12 hours, or 12 courses, and they're each course is 1 hour each. And everything's online. It's on the weekend. There's 2 different weekends you would meet, and some individual online work as well. This is a list of the courses which you can take a look at and review, but there are all the types of leadership classes that you would want to sort of build out, and you have, again, the entire university at your discretion, and will help you build out your program. But here's the important part, and this is how it ties to the projects that you were all sort of sharing earlier on today, is that the cornerstone of this program is a capstone project. You bring your wicked problem into this program, and we try to help you solve that program and that problem. So we are your resource. We become your partner. And we've had the students that we've had so far, and we've got 5 more graduates coming out really soon. They're bringing in the problem that they see is really essential in their community or their workplace. And it takes 2 years to complete the program. We are trying to solve that issue for them as partners. You have the information here on where to locate the information on the university website, but you can also contact me because I'm the faculty director for the CPM program. And I would be happy to answer any questions that you have around that. And then I provided for you, and I'm not going to go over them, but here's what I provided for you at the end are just some resources. So if you want to develop out your professional library around this particular topic, these are some books that I've used to develop, you know, lectures and things around this particular issue. And these are some really interesting videos around the same issue, which looks at adaptive leadership, the role of empathy within this, and also how to manage transitions as well. So that's my presentation.
Thank you so much, Jodie.
Yeah.
That was wonderful. I mean, you and Jabbar both packed in an enormous amount of information. And I'm so glad you were kind enough to put together the PowerPoint presentations, because it will endure. Now, let's see here. I'm taking a look at time. I have to leave right at 1:30, so I bet you I'll be turning this over to Dr. Wing Kai or Dr. Mike at some point here. But I'm wondering if there are any questions out there from folks. I didn't see any in the chat room. Did you see any, Megan?
There's nothing in the chat, so you guys can raise your hands or write in the chat if your connection is poor. So Nadej just asked in the chat, can we get the PowerPoint presentation? Sure, so Jodie, if you could send that to me, both you and Jabbar, after the presentation, I'll circulate that to everyone with the emails. And it looks like Biru has his hand up as well, so you can go ahead.
Good, yeah, that's quite a gift. Any questions from the audience? Or comments?
Biru just raised his
Biru
hand. Yeah, so Biru can speak, I think.
Okay, great.
Okay, hi, can you hear me, guys?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay. I apologize in advance. I'm experiencing some mild flu, so my voice can be tricky. So I'm Bru. I'm from Ethiopia. I'm working in trade competition and consumer protection. My background is educational background is in law, specializing in international trade law and commercial law. I had two questions for Professor Jodie. First, I would like to thank her for the presentation. It's really informative. A couple of years ago, I was with some friends who was trying to start a non-profit on consumer protection in Ethiopia. But we were facing a lot of problems, and I was just reminded of those problems while she was making her presentation. So the first question is, with regards to the wicked challenge that nonprofits face, I was expecting to see the role, or I should say, the negative role of governments or the interference from governments, and how do you see that as a challenge? I'm not sure about US, but here, so the biggest challenge with nonprofits face is the challenge from the government. Usually, nonprofits are supposed to play a complementary role, or they're supposed to do, they're supposed to work in areas that the government is lacking, but due to political or other reasons, we see a lot of interference from government. So how do you assess that as a wicked challenge? My second question was a general question. Recently, I'm also again speaking from experience from my country. We see non-profit organizations seriously interfering or having some kind of a hidden agenda, or generally playing a different role than they're supposed to play. So my question is, can nonprofits be really neutral or independent, to say, or should they be independent? Or is it okay to have, for them to have, like to take sides while their work in the community. So these were my questions, and thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, so thank you for your question. So I think there may be a, it's not as difficult here in the United States to create a nonprofit. So, and so that would be my answer to your first question, all right? In terms of, proving that you are filling that void, because you are. So there's three different sectors, and then that the nonprofits are supposed to pull in from where there's a void, right? What you mentioned. So I don't see that here, and it may be something very much unique to where you are, and I'm not familiar with your location and the information and I could look more into that and come back to you with more information. But with regard to your second point about the kind of the neutral role, that is an interesting question, because that's been one of my, I actually wrote and published a piece on this, 2 pieces actually on this. One, that I was concerned with the contracting out of government role to the nonprofit organizations because of mission drift. I was, government, each the private sector, nonprofit sector, and public sector have very different missions that they fulfill. And it builds into the culture of those organizations. And so when you turn, like in the United States, when you turn it over to where the government is now contracting out to private sector organizations or nonprofit sector organizations, they don't have the same ethos. There's a different culture that's built in. How do you ensure that what was intended from the government is actually being played out? And so one of the pieces was about mission drift, that nonprofits would leave their central mission to fit others. And my other piece was about nonprofit organizations acting as mediating structures where they actually blocked and didn't fulfill what the government wanted them to fulfill.
Thank you, Jodie.
Sorry, so that's my answer. Sorry.
Thank you very much. I wish we had more time, but what I want to do now is to move to Dr. Mike for his comments, kind of putting these sessions into a context of servant leadership. So Mike, thank you.
I'm going to make sure that I'm not muted here, so thank you.
We can hear you,
Dr. Wendy, but I believe I'm able to be heard by all our wonderful guests from Africa, and again I want to welcome you all. I wish we could talk to you individually right now, but time is of the essence. I know you have other responsibilities as well, so I just want to mention in closing that we're all participating in this Mandela Fellows module program. And what I want to do today in a very brief period of time is talk about leadership, especially the leadership of Nelson Mandela, and then link the topics that we've covered in general, and which are crisis management, social justice, and nonprofit development, and link them to the words and the deeds of Nelson Mandela. Throughout your participation in the Fellows Program, whether at Bridgewater State or in Washington, one of the defining concepts have been the goal of practicing servant leadership. You've heard that many, many times before. A servant leader uses his or her talents and their passion as a public manager to meet the challenges of your country and dedicating your career to improving the lives of those in your country and indeed throughout Africa. Whether it's responding to a crisis such as the COVID-19 pandemic, which we talked about earlier in crisis management, or working to achieve social justice in the area of race relations, as is the case of what Bridgewater State is doing, or organizing to foster agencies to advance the common good, as Professor Kluver has talked about. Servant leadership is a critical ingredient for the work of a public manager. It is important, whether in Africa or here in the United States, that leaders develop strategies to ensure that crisis management is effective, that social justice becomes a reality, not just a phrase, and that organizing a nonprofit for the common good or participating in our certified public management program brings about meaningful change and democratic practice. Simply put, a servant's goal is to bring about social, economic, and political transformation, using his or her skills to remake, to reform, or to redirect our society in ways that achieve the common good. Therefore, a servant leader transforms the society in the following ways. A servant leader is certainly a change agent with a vision of public policy, a vision of how to deal with a new power elite or replacing a power elite, and dealing with the very, very serious problem of income inequality that faces not only the countries of Africa, but the United States as well. A servant leader is also one who is a moral guide, who emphasizes honesty, ethical behavior, and works to rid the country or their particular area of concern for any kinds of sign of corruption, anti-corruption. The servant leader who wants to transform society needs to be a problem solver, overcome obstacles, provide answers, workable solutions. The servant leader also needs to be a consensus builder, building coalitions within society, groups and linking groups together. And finally, a servant leader is someone who is a unifier, brings together a divided nation or a divided region, and reduce divisions within that region or within that country. I want to remind you of some of the words of Nelson Mandela and servant leadership. Certainly Mandela was one of the, was and is the model of servant leadership, and who through his words, his actions, his vision, transformed not only South Africa, but helped millions in Africa and around the world to understand how they can improve their lives and the lives of those in the future. Mandela said, and here are two quotes that I find very, very inspirational. Mandela said, "Everyone can rise above their circumstances and achieve success if they are dedicated to and passionate about what they do." Secondly, Mandela said, "Action without vision is only passing time. Vision without action is merely daydreaming. But vision with action can change the world." Here in the United States, we also have had leaders who were crisis managers, advocates for social justice, and those who sought to work for the common good and democratic practice. One of our great presidents was Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who took our country through a terrible depression and a world war. One of my favorite quotes from Franklin Delano Roosevelt that deals with his commitment to social justice and advancing the common good. Franklin Delano Roosevelt said, "The test of our progress is not whether we add more to the abundance of those who have much, it is whether we provide enough for those who have too little." Roosevelt understood the importance of being a servant leader, and through his vision, his actions, his passion, transformed our country and left our country better off. Finally, there is our greatest president, Abraham Lincoln, who took our country through a civil war and helped preserve our union as the United States of America. Lincoln's most memorable speech was given at the Gettysburg, Pennsylvania cemetery, as he dedicated this land to those who gave their lives to preserve the Union. At the closing of his speech, Lincoln said these memorable words: "This nation, under God, should have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, and for the people should not perish from the earth." Each of you, in my opinion, has the power to become a servant leader who can transform your community, your agency, your province, your region, your country. There will indeed be struggles that need to be overcome. There will be crises to manage. There will be difficult decisions to be made. There will be opposition to your actions that are taken. There will be criticisms of your vision. But a servant leader rises above these challenges, and in the words of Nelson Mandela, his final words today, there can be no greater gift than that of giving one's time and energy to help others without expecting anything in return. A true servant leader gives of himself, gives of herself as a gift to others to improve their lives and to make their future more secure. I know I speak for not only for myself, but for my colleagues who have participated in this program and who are here today, and wish you good fortune and much success as you become servant leaders and transform your country and indeed Africa. Good luck. And now I return to Dr. Wendy.
Thank you for those words. What a perfect conclusion, Mike. That is quite a gift. And I appreciated just the whole experience. So thank you very much, Mike. Now, I saw that you had some notes. Is that something that you could share with
Yes,
folks?
I'll be able to. I'll give those to Megan.
Yeah,
she can forward those.
Thank you.
Yep.
I would really appreciate that as well. Well, we're getting close to the end of our time, and I will be leaving you in just about 7 minutes. So in case someone is speaking or asking questions at that time, I just wanted to wish you all well. We love you, we miss you. You will forever be a part of our family here at BSU. And so thank you for joining us. Please don't leave. Just because I have to go doesn't mean that you must. So what I'd like to do now is to turn things back over to Wing Kai for the final moments of our session here, and just tell all of you how very much we value you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Wendy, and thank you all the speakers today, especially Mike, for your inspiring message about servant leadership at the end. Of course, the presentations by Wendy, Jabbar, and Jodie bring us a lot of ideas about the skills and values of effective leadership as a public manager. Picking up some of the themes that all of you were while you were at Bridgewater State, I think it brings back a lot of memories because, as you know, Mike and Wendy are the heart and soul of the Mandela experience over the last, for those 4 years, from 2016 to 2019. Now they are coming back to wrap up the session again and giving you a lot of ideas about how to continue your study and your work experiences. And after you left Bridgewater, all of you have had continuous success in your career and in your education. And we all feel very proud of what you have accomplished. One of the reasons why we have had this program is to really maintain our connection with the alumni, and not just from the formal greetings that we do occasionally, but try to support your professional development or have you to help us as a resource for our university as well. Because you all have spent 6 weeks or 5 to 6 weeks in our universities, during those summers. And we really value you as an alum of our university. You study with us. So we wanted to maintain the connections with all of you in the future. So we have developed this database of all 99 of you and get the contact information thanks to Megan's efforts. Now we wanted to continue the connection. This is the first program we started, and I know that all of you have very busy lives, so it's not a surprise that we cannot reach over more than half of you in all the 3 or 4 sessions. But I'm really heartened by the participation of so many of you. Some of you participated in all 3 sessions. Some of you only are able to participate in 1 session. But one way or the other, and I think you deserve the recognition for this program. So we will actually give you a certificate that will look like something like that. Can you see this?
There it is. Yep.
Can you see this? So Megan is the major organizer of this program. So she and I are the co-hosts of this program. So we'll both sign our name over there and then say that you have participated in this program and this session. So we'll do the certificate after this session and send all of you who participated in the program an online certificate that represent that you have participated in this program. So so that's our first step. And other than that, we also wanted to encourage all of you to connect with us in the upcoming year in 2 ways. One of which is to continue the virtual exchange experiences we have. So if some of you really have a request for us to appear in any of your program or professional development with the technology, if it's able to manage, we really like to be a part of your experiences in Africa. In the past, it's very hard to bring us to your country, but now it's probably possible if you are able to manage the technology. So we, you know, if you want a speaker from Bridgewater State University, we can identify the speaker for you and connect with you and have this kind of virtual exchange, not just, you know, to the whole group, but to a particular fellows in a particular country. So we can do country-specific exchanges with you. Likewise, we would like to have you as a continuous part of Bridgewater State University. If some of you are interested in lecturing with us or joining our classes, you know, as a guest, you're welcome to contact myself, Dr. Megan Healy Clancy, and Jabbar Al-Obaidi. Any of us can help arrange this kind of exchanges in our classrooms or on our campus in general. Finally, I think you need the continuous mentoring and updating of your work. If you have any questions, please feel free to write to us by email or by you know, WhatsApp. There's no question that's too small or too large for any of us. If we do not have the answers, we'll be very honest with you that it's really not our expertise to solve any of your problems. Now, I know that a lot of you are specializing in different fields, including law, criminal justice, education, public health, and so on. There are many different areas. We may not have the exact professional experiences, but we do have similar experiences in some of our academic disciplines, so we can connect you to the right people. And we would hope that some of our students are able to meet you if you're going to join our classes or being a guest in our classes. So please feel free to connect with us. Finally, we will also be sharing, making all the video recording and reorganizing it into a series and distribute that to all 99 alumni. So those of you who missed the recording, you can watch it again. And I'm going to work with Dr. Jabbar Al-Obaidi to try to put them together because he has no choice, he's the media expert, so I have to count on him for any support. So again, really happy to see all of you here, and we really wanted to maintain the connection. So thank you for signing in, and it's really glad to see some of you, especially like Kumano, who've been here for all the sessions, and really appreciate your participation. Bureau has been coming, supporting us for a long time, and for this program. And then Lorenta has been here quite often, and Patience has gone to a few of our sessions. And glad to see Minda participating, and Betty has been signing in. And this time we have more fellows from 2019 as well, like Costa. And it's good to have Ayo and Jimmy joining us. And we like to see how you're doing in Nigeria as well. And Kanye, thank you for joining us, and Margaret as well. Any of my colleagues want to say something?
Just thank you all for joining us. I see that Josue had a question in the chat. I don't know if do you still want to ask that question briefly, Josue, before we wrap up? Yes, Wendy?
Thank you, bye-bye, Wendy.
Yeah, you're going to leave now. Okay, thank you, Wendy. Yes, go ahead, Josue.
Okay, thank you so much. It's a brief question for Dr. Mike. You said something very, very, very true, is that most of the time when you try to do the best thing, when you try to implement a vision or something like that, there is always someone else or some circumstances who can come and try to break you. What's the best way to go forward? Because most of the time it's not easy at all, and I know exactly what I'm talking about. So how can you still have this power, this strength to go ahead? Dr. Mike.
Yep, I think, Josue, there are a number of responses to that, but certainly when you are involved in trying to use your personal leadership in order to advance a particular cause, it's important to have an organization. In other words, other people who have a similar point of view as yours, and be able to present your vision using, and as Dr. Jabbar said, using many communication tools that are available these days, and a lot of just hard work in terms of meeting with as many people as possible, meeting with as many groups as possible, getting your message out, whether it's in the newspapers or whether it's on radio or whether it's on social media. Again, starting a movement to bring about change in whatever way you feel is necessary requires a multi-faceted program of communication, of organization, of linkages with individuals of a like mind, and also, I guess I'd have to say, fearlessness. The view that no matter what obstacles you face, no matter what they are, that you're going to move forward, and that you're going to achieve your goal, and that you're going to bring about change in whatever area you feel is necessary. The great leaders, and you know, Nelson Mandela as an example, were fearless and made enormous sacrifices. But in the end, Nelson Mandela and those who worked with him were able to achieve great things, but only after many sacrifices, many obstacles, many roadblocks, but they achieved it because they had that vision and they had that personal desire to bring about change. I hope that helps.
Yeah, so much. Yes, a lot. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And Bira, you have your hand up as well for maybe one last question or comment.
Yeah, just a simple question for Mike. I usually see people mentioning Mandela or other former US presidents as servant leaders. And I was just wondering if there's any other current or living a political leader that he considers as a servant leader of today. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I'm personally very, very impressed with Desmond Tutu as an example, bringing his religious beliefs and his desire for social justice to the fore. I think that he has been most impressive throughout Africa and the world. I'm talking about two individuals who are from South Africa, but one of them is a political leader and one of them is a religious leader. But both of them have this desire to create a situation where change comes about, but moral change and following the good and trying to achieve social justice in ways that are very important to bring about solving of problems, bringing people together, moving away from the ill will of the past and trying to achieve some kind of national unity. Both Mandela and Desmond Tutu, I think, were examples of that effort, and I find them as enormously impressive servant leaders.
Yeah, sorry for interrupting you, but I was wondering about political leaders, not from religious or the private sector or from the non-profits. Political leaders. The reason I ask is I really struggle to find one. Was just wondering.
I think, you know, when we look at world leaders today, a lot of times we look at some of the leaders who were able to control the COVID-19 situation with very strong leadership. And for example, the Prime Minister in New Zealand has been considered one of the female politicians, and also, you know, Chancellor Angela Merkel in Germany, her policy towards the refugees, even though it's not always consistent, but she has been supporting the refugees, and it's a more respected leader, in my opinion. So I just wanted to give tribute to some of the female politicians in the world who actually have done quite a good job in setting an example for good and effective leadership. I don't know if that helps, Burrow. I think, are you looking for African leaders, or we can talk
Yeah,
about
that was helpful. Yeah, but thank you.
Okay, and Lorenta wants to add a comment as well, I see from the chat.
Go ahead and speak, Lorenta.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
No, we can.
Okay, so I just want to add quickly to the presentation of Dr. Jodie, and then talking about NGO and some of the wicked challenges we all face together. Thank you for such an insightful presentation. But I was wondering, perhaps you may want to also look at one component of such wicked challenge in relation to development partners. Like, there are many instances where people politicize and exploit on the vulnerabilities and poverty of the poor people, just in the guise of humanitarian intervention. So sometimes even the solution that some certain NGO are focused on trying to solve, they don't go away because there are certain kind of people in authority of power of privileges who wants that problem to remain because they need to utilize the problem to secure grants. So I'm using a very realistic case study that I know very much about in my country, of the internally displaced persons, where you within the northeastern part of Nigeria, that suddenly became a hub, like a market for exploiters. So you may want to also look at that aspect, perhaps, and as one of such wicked challenges, bedeviling non-governmental organizations and third parties in general. Maybe I'm wrong. I just wanted to add that because it came to my mind during your presentation.
Excellent, thank you. Did you want to comment on that, Mike? Or Jodie?
I'm muted. Okay. Sorry about that. What you are talking about, I think, relates to an area of like vague gray area in some of the research that I found in terms of mediating structures with nonprofits, and it's called governing nonprofits, where they kind of fall in between and they can also block instead of help. And is that what you're talking about? Like, are you trying to state that there's some nonprofits that are actually blocking? Is that what you're saying?
Well, what I'm saying is that trying to identify or isolate wicked challenges, I think that is one priority that should be given attention a lot, and perhaps regulated or investigated, or because it's really happening that many development partners, and including governments, organizations, they just keep using the displaced persons, the vulnerable group, the poor people, the poverty, the people enduring worse things for personal gain and profits. So you see governments across the world, even in developing world, like my country as well, there are instances where they make budgets just for those people most in need, and at the end of the day nothing goes to them, so they kind of just use them as a means, as another market. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, that relates to the governing nonprofit literature, and it's Hula and Jackson are some of the authors, and that was part of one of the articles that I wrote about in terms of mediating structures. And I can send you information on that particular author, maybe even some sections of that work, if that would be helpful.
I'll be very grateful to see that.
Yeah, because it's sort of it's like a sub-government. It's like almost like another layer of government that doesn't have to follow the governmental rules. It's kind of an interesting, vague area. And it's hard to find them because you have to be almost inside of them to see them. Mm-hmm. And that the fact that you are seeing it is interesting. So it may be more overt there. It's very subvert here. So I can, if you find my email on my PowerPoint, I'll send you what I have on that literature, because I was writing about that years ago. I was writing about it in terms of nonprofits wearing masks as kind of a way of shielding what they were doing. So send me a note and I'll send you what I have on that topic, okay?
Okay, I'm just
sure. Yeah, and Lorenta's email is in the chat, Jodie, if you just want to take note of that now. Great.
Any last words from any of the fellows about my idea of connection in the future before we finish today? We welcome any of your ideas. Mm-hmm. So please keep in touch. Mm-hmm. And we'll send you the information of the recording. We'll send you the certificates in the next couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah, and I'll also be sending you just a follow-up kind of polls to get some of your feedback about how this went, any suggestions that you might have, as Dr. Cho was saying, moving forward. And especially, I'll give you an opportunity to indicate if you would be interested in some sort of virtual exchange with BSU, which might be you guys talking to our students, or any of us or any other BSU faculty or staff member who will be available to speak with you, your organization, et cetera. So thank you all so much for joining us again today. Thank you.